it looks like we are pretty stable now. So again, this is a webinar on PeopleSoft Insights, and I just want to share a little bit with everybody on the session about PeopleSoft Insights and how they're used, how customers are actually using insights to interact with data within PeopleSoft. So on to the presentation. A little bit about me real quick. My name is Gary Dranikoski. I'm actually, it says director. I must have left the word off there. I'm a managing director at SpearMC, and I focus primarily on managed services and analytics. So my background, prior to coming to SpearMC, was I was doing a lot of work in Oracle Business Intelligence, OBIEE. So when I came to SpearMC, and it was about the exact same time Kibana had come out as a product in the PeopleSoft space, it was really a natural fit for me to, move from an OBIEE reporting and analytics background into a Kibana in what has now become PeopleSoft Insights with OpenSearch dashboards. So that is, how it happened. Right there, that is my cell phone number. So if anybody wants to text me with any questions, I think that's also available on WhatsApp. And then my email address is probably the best way to get a hold of me. But my contact information. Quickly, I wanted to thank Harry and the entire Oracle team for allowing us to present and also for promoting this to the region. So, SpearMC, we do a lot with Oracle. Our positioning is, really across all of the PeopleSoft applications specifically, but really big in the training and guided learning space, as well as licensing, managed services, cloud. So, again, we appreciate the partnership and appreciate everyone from Oracle, as well as everybody in attendance here today. Quickly, SpearMC, we focus on all the various services available within PeopleSoft. So managed services, consulting, doing implementations, obviously training, the guided learning. We have our all access learning pass. So all of the content that we actually put together in these recorded webinars as well as training sessions, it eventually will be moving to our all access learning pass. So if anybody's looking for additional training, inquire about the All Access Learning Pass. We're big in the Oracle Cloud Platform and emerging technologies. And then obviously we have some proprietary products, and one not listed there is our segregation of duties product. And we're going to talk about that because that's actually a product that we have embedded and taken insights dashboards, and that's kind of the big example that I talk about in the presentation later today. As again, I mentioned, we do a lot of training. I just wanted to pop this up here. So if anybody's looking for any PeopleSoft specific training, utilize that link and it will take you to our current list of classes. And again, you had my contact information, so feel free to reach out there. All right, enough with the background and public service, talking about the company, but you guys are all here really to learn and discuss a little bit about PeopleSoft Insights. So the agenda today, what I really want to talk about are, I'll start with a little bit of background in reporting within PeopleSoft, and then we will focus on the delivered insights first, then talk a little bit about cloned or modified insights, and then the last portion, we'll talk about custom insights, right? So a lot of different ways that customers are using PeopleSoft Insights, whether that's Kibana or OpenSearch dashboards. So I'm throwing a lot of terminology out there. So as we get into this PeopleSoft reporting on the next slide, I will talk a little bit about that so that you understand exactly what I'm referring to. All right, reporting in PeopleSoft. This slide is something I put together several years ago, and people really like when I show this slide because it highlights all the different ways that you can get reporting out of PeopleSoft with the tools that are actually delivered with PeopleSoft. So the first tool listed there is PeopleSoft Query. That's what I consider a foundational reporting tool. Uh, Query really has been around, I think, since the beginning of PeopleSoft, right? So that tool has good capabilities for certain things and not necessarily a great tool for other things. And so what I did in the diagram here is I put these little stoplight colors, red, green, yellow, where red I would say is not maybe the best tool for that, and yellow being, yeah, I think it works, but maybe not the best option, and then green where I think that tool is maybe saying the best isn't the right way, because there could be three tools that are really good or four tools that are really good at doing something. But I think it's just the functionality is there for that. So and even the query, the first one that I have a red there, large data sets, I would say actually that could probably be a yellow. It might be a red if you're trying to use a query to return a lot of data um, just on the screen while you're executing. But if you scheduled a query and got the output of that data, then it's okay for large data sets. It just might not be the best if you are trying to do large data sets, on screen ad hoc. So query, um, first tool, foundational. And when I say foundational, you're actually going to understand if we go through this. Very foundational in the fact that query is the underlying source of data for your search definitions as well. So truly, when I say foundational, it does mean that. Next is SQR. And SQR is another foundational tool. And similar, like I said with query, you've got certain things that are good for large data sets, but SQR is not necessarily built for notifications or advanced visualizations. You're basically reporting data out to some sort of dump file. And I didn't actually walk down the list all the way with query as well, but you have the same thing, right? Both of these tools have red in the advanced visualizations. Your ease of use, I would say query was easy, but SQR is not really that easy to use, whether it's from a programming perspective to get it there, or even just, running it. You have to schedule it. It's not, just right there like you have in query. Next, real-time data. All the tools are actually available in real-time data, even insights. Insights, it just needs to be turned on. So you'll notice that row might have yellow there. End user creation, I just sort of talked about that alongside ease of use between query and SQR. And then Excel integration, neither one of these tools are fantastic with Excel. So query, SQR, foundational reporting tools. Now we move further down into what we'll call conventional reporting tools. And that's going to be Envision and BI Publisher. So now we're doing a little bit more than just extracting data out of the system. With Envision and BI Publisher, not necessarily great with large data sets. BI Publisher, okay with speed, but again, these tools are really focused on, I would say both of these tools would be the end user integration, and then advanced visualizations. I wouldn't call BI Publisher, but formed reporting, which is not something that's on the list there, but it is a tool that's used definitely when you need to print off some sort of form. That's the tool of choice delivered for that, right? Then we look down at these last two columns here. We've got pivot grids and insights. These are what we're going to call analytical reporting. Pivot grids was the first real opportunity that Oracle took to jump into this analytical reporting space. I think the pivot grids, they had nice visualizations. They did a good job with the notifications. They were obviously in real time, and the Excel integration was pretty good. But they, were really bad when you got to large data sets, and they were also slow. So that really made the tool, and honestly, the difficult to get these set up, I think, was also a challenge. So I think Insights is a phenomenal tool versus pivot grids. So really, the focus of this webinar, Insights, is also, I feel the best analytical tool as well. And I think if you're familiar with pivot grids and you haven't seen Insights or Kibana or OpenSearch, then you will know that when you walk away from it, you'll see, oh yeah, that's so much better than pivot grids if you're more familiar with that. So when you hear PeopleSoft Insights, that really is referring to the dashboards, the interactive dashboards that are delivered with PeopleSoft. So Insights kind of takes this umbrella that used to be called Kibana with the Elasticsearch indexes, and you were reading data from there, reporting it in Kibana. That was replaced with OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboards. And really the overall brand on that is called PeopleSoft Insights. So you may hear me use all three of those terms interchangeably. And I'm not doing that necessarily intentionally, but you know how it is with change management sometimes. You've said and trained yourself on Kibana for so long, now we're calling it OpenSearch, and then we throw in this term Insights. But again, the Insights are really just this analytical reporting, these interactive dashboards that are now available within PeopleSoft. And they have delivered capabilities, ability to modify and clone them, and then the ability to create custom ones as well. So again, going down that insight list, very good with large data sets. It does work fast, so built for speed. Notifications, and I'll call that a red there. And the reason I say that, yes, Insight gives you a notification on a dashboard, but it's an interactive dashboard. When I wrote this and said notifications on the left, I was really thinking pushing out some sort of notification or alert, maybe to an email or a text or something. That's not what Insights are designed for, right? This is more a dashboard where you're interacting with the data. Advanced visualizations, absolutely. I mean, that is what this tool is, analytical reporting, advanced visuals. Ease of use, very easy to use, point, click, drill down, and very, very easy. Real-time data, that's yellow. Back when this first came out in 8.5.9, that was red. So because you only were getting the data as quickly as you ran your indexes, and so you could schedule that more frequently. And a lot of people still just go with the scheduled indexes rather than turning on real-time indexing. But real-time indexing is available. So if you need your data or want your data to always be up to date, then you're not running a batch process to refresh your search definitions. End user creation, that's a yellow. And that's actually a yellow because sometimes it's a green, sometimes it's a red. And that really depends on what you're trying to do from a reporting perspective and if the data is already available to you, whether or not that might be a green or a red. But again, not an overly difficult. So I think it's just the number of steps. It's not, extensive program or anything like that. So that is good. And then the last part is Excel integration. Again, Insights, these dashboards are built for using the dashboard to get to the data. It's not built to download a bunch of information into Excel and manipulate, sort, and do all that offline. If you want to do that, then why didn't you just download the data to Excel in the first place or use Envision, right? So I mark that as a red because it's just not the use case that you want to be doing with Insights. And I'm not giving anyone time right now to ask any questions. So if there are questions, we can circle back at the end. I just want to make sure we can get through everything. And I'm trying to go through this pretty quick. Hopefully that doesn't mean I end up going way too quick. All right. So that brings us to how are customers using PeopleSoft Insights? Well, 3 ways that you can use them. Delivered. So Oracle is delivering Insights with PUMs, and they started doing this in PUM 34, I think, for finance, and 36 for, no, I think 36 for finance, 34 for HCM, or maybe I have that backward. But hopefully you're far beyond either one of those PUMs anyway, so you already have some level of delivered dashboards available to you. Next, people are taking delivered dashboards or delivered search definitions and modifying them and creating their own. So they're typically cloning those and coming up with their own design based on, some loose set of requirements that's sort of tied to what Oracle has already provided in the other in the delivered dashboards. And then finally, you have custom dashboards. So if you look at this chart I have here, it's 18 steps to get data out of PeopleSoft and onto a uh, PeopleSoft Insight dashboard. So it starts with a query, then you have to build a search definition and designer. Then you run the search admin processes to populate the data in that index. Then you go into OpenSearch and you build a dashboard and a bunch of visualizations. And then once you have that built in OpenSearch, then you need to come back into PeopleSoft, make PeopleSoft aware of that, and then assign the privileges and actually grant access to that dashboard. So if you think about that, the delivered dashboards, Oracle has taken care of all 18 of those. I mean, aside from you having to ensure that your end users have access to the roles that have access to those dashboards, or maybe modifying the role that gets access to the dashboard, that's all delivered. So that is, great way to really jump into and start, for those of you that haven't used Insights, a great way to get started with your users. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So delivered insights, typically the starting point for most customers, at least the conversation starter. So we'll look at one delivered insight here in a second, but a lot of customers, they try to show it, let their users see what they like, see what sticks, and then they go from there, right? And what I really like to say is these two green boxes on the right, if you look at this effort and value matrix that I have here, the two green boxes are where the delivered fall, right? Very low effort, typically, to actually, it's not the two green boxes on the right. It's really only this. Sorry, I'm pointing with my finger. This box is really where the delivered ones come in, right? So it's going to be somewhere in here, low effort, and then somewhere between low and high value. So not a lot to get started, but hopefully useful for your end users, for your customers, okay? So what I did here, I just did a screenshot of a delivered dashboard, and this is an HR database. And under recruiting, they have some insights under here. So when you click on recruiting, you can see these three pop up, and you see a little flash there that says OpenSearch dashboard, boom, and then the one on the upper right, recruitment pipeline. Now, recruitment admin, recruitment pipeline, there was no data, but in application, there is. So when you click on it, that's just a tile. Basically, it's going to be a link that takes you to this interactive dashboard. So now when this dashboard comes up, this is fully interactive. You're still in PeopleSoft, but it's embedded here within PeopleSoft. I'm a super user, so I do have that link in the top that says Open in OpenSearch dashboard. Each one of these visualizations on this page is a unique visualization, and they're fully interactive. So I haven't clicked on anything yet. I was just dragging it around. But as you hover over, I just clicked on California there, and you can see the entire page updated to show only things related to California. Basically applied that filter that was at the top. So then when you click here, we're going to now look at how this data, where's this data coming from? So these are all the delivered dashboards that are available. And one of those listed in here was that recruiting dashboard here. It's coming down here. Well, it was in the list. I don't know if we already passed it or not, but these are all the delivered dashboards on the HCM side. There was a custom dashboard you might have noticed at the bottom, but again, the point here is to show just what's available. These right here, this is where the data is coming from. All of these search definitions. Our particular dashboard that I showed, um, it was the recruiting dashboard. I'm not going to select that one here, though I just pick any of them, but we do know it was the recruiting that obviously if we were looking at the recruiting dashboard, then the underlying search definition was going to be recruiting. I just picked this analytics, earnings, and deductions one just for an example. You see here, it always has the query name where you come from. So if you click on that, you can see this is actually a connected query because they're applying security. And then if you click view that, here's the underlying query. And then if you it opens query, but you can't make any changes here right now. But basically, that is the search record where all this data comes from. Now, if we go into the security tab, you'll see it there mentions that security join record again, and they're applying row level security with that. These are all the fields that will become available. So if you have the field to index box checked, then you can use this data set in Insights, OpenSearch when you're building a visualization. So that takes us through that. Now, so that's the delivered dashboards. I didn't want to spend a ton of time there. I just wanted to quickly run through that because those are easy to use. They're documented in PeopleBooks. Your admin will deploy them. You basically assign a little bit of security, and you're off and running at least to get a feel for what's available and see how your data looks on these insights. But I think the power starts to come when you look at modifying and custom. So that's where I want to spend a little bit more time talking about each one of those. So when we talk about modified search definitions, I'm bringing back up this 18 steps, okay? When you are modifying a search definition, you can either have simple changes, which is the green box, or way more difficult changes, which is the red box. So if you're living in the green box, all the data that you want is already available for you. So all you are doing at that point is logging into OpenSearch and building visualizations and dashboards. And that's actually a very easy thing to do. Your data is there, you're selecting the fields, you select the type. Well, you start with the visualization, the type of visualization you want to create, and then you move on to the underlying data set. So if you're living in that space, it's pretty easy. And that's simply a cloning a visualization or dashboard, maybe making some changes to what's on screen. If you are looking on the red side and extending the data model, now we're talking about going back into that search definition and having to actually make changes to the underlying query, to the underlying search definition. So you're now undeploying the search definition, making changes, redeploying it, running the crawl process, coming back into OpenSearch. It's a lot more. Now we're talking about 18 steps rather than, maybe 2 or 3 steps. So that's, again, different ways. It's almost like a custom, but you're not fully custom because you're using what's already there, but you might be modifying that. So it's a little less complicated. So one example of cloning and modifying is a visual that we did at one of my customers. So they really liked this delivered dashboard that was based on vouchers, but they didn't necessarily, they liked the layout and look of the delivered dashboard, right? So you had this line chart that, and then on the right you had the bar chart, right? So they liked the way it looked, but again, it was based on vouchers, and what they really wanted to see was payments. So I looked out at the available search definitions and said, okay, do we have a search definition that's based on payments that has all this information out there? And sure enough, it existed pre-built. So all we had to do was go and create a new visualization. Well, three new visualizations technically. I created the exact same thing as with the trend here, the line. Then we had very similar with the bar chart, and then below that there was a detailed report that showed all the details as you went into that. So again, we didn't have to modify any data model here. All we simply did was create a new visualization, but leveraged what already existed from Oracle. So as a customer, you are able to do that without spending a ton of time going through the 18 steps. So that is really key. So it's all about understanding what's in all of these delivered search indexes. So that's all going to be found in Search Framework and PeopleTools Search Framework, Search Definition. You'll get the full list of all the delivered search definitions there. Now, let's talk about custom search definitions. So when you do something custom, you will need to go through all 18 steps of the visualizations and all 18 steps of the process, right? You are starting with literally data that exists in PeopleSoft. And how do you get that data out? You're going to create a query. Then there's some rules. If you want to use a query as a source of a search definition, that query will need to have certain things in it. I know one of them will be a drilling URL. Another one will be a last modified stamp, and that is there so that whenever you want to run incremental loads, it has somewhere to reference. There's a few other things. I mean, it's all documented in PeopleBooks. The point being, you need to get the data out. You're using a query. Then you take that query and you use it as a source of your search definition. So now steps 3 through 7, you need to go through this process. You need to determine what fields are mapping in, what the security component of it will be. Obviously, you're going to save that, and then Search Framework requires a search category. I don't think there's really a correlation to the search category and insights reporting, but because this is a process that's coupled together in Search Framework, that is just something that you have to do. But that's really just checking a box and moving on. It's nothing too much to worry about there. Once you have that search definition designed and how you want it, then you need to actually run the process to populate that. And that is an App Engine process. So you go through, you set up the run control, run it, wait, anywhere from 2 minutes to it could. I mean, I don't really know, where it ends, but depending on tuning and everything else, that could be a pretty long process. The amount of data that you have, but hopefully it's not too long. You run that initial process, and then you have your data set, and then you can create a second run control so that that gets populated on a schedule only based on the changes. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are planning to have this in real time, there's some additional steps that you need to do. You'll work with your DBA to get a database trigger set up and all that. But the point, steps 1 through 11 gets the data into a search index. Once the data is in a search index, then it's available in OpenSearch for you to be able to report off of that. OpenSearch, quickly you need to create an index pattern, then you go in, you build all your visualizations, and then finally, after the visualizations are built, PeopleSoft technically is not aware of them at that point, so you need to import them back in, assign some security, and then determine how you want to use them. So this is a big process, but it's definitely worth it. And I went through it rather quickly, and now that I have done this so many times over the years, I feel like I can do this rather quickly as well. And even in the example that I'm about to talk about, Randy Johnson, who's Vice President at SpearMC, he had this product, and he was showing me the product one day, and I was like, why don't you use Kibana to or I think it was Kibana. We initially started talking about it, and I said, why don't you create some sort of Kibana dashboard? It would just function so much better. And I think he was envisioning like this to be something that would take us weeks, possibly months to have this nice dashboard. And I think within a couple of hours, I at least had a prototype. Now we refined it over time, but I mean, it didn't take all that long to go through those 18 steps, at least at a high level, because we were really trying to work out the details of what we wanted to do. So what did we do? SpearMC has this product called the Segregation of Duty Analyzer. And what the product does is it allows customers to see where there's conflicts in what different users can do in the system. As in a quick example, if you had somebody approving a expense report that they wrote themselves, right? So that shouldn't happen, but for whatever reason, this tool goes out and does all that. So when we first created this tool, the reporting was done using an inquiry page. So, you had a little tile here. You clicked on it, showed there was a issue. You would come in here and search, and you would find all of your issues. And then you'd navigate out to your security pages, make the changes, and hopefully run the process again. Hopefully you don't have any issues. We also had built some pivot grids related to this. Again, I think early on I mentioned pivot grids didn't do great with large volumes of data. Now, ideally, you don't have large volumes of data, but when we were testing it, we obviously had a lot of issues. You can see that I think there was 16,000, probably because the problem in this case had to do with the all pages permission list, which everyone had. But we realized that it's potentially not the best solution because it wasn't working when you did larger volumes of data, and so that's whenever we created this insight to be able to have an interactive dashboard, right? So in this case, we actually had a tile on here that showed at a high level your total number of conflicts. Again, this was a demo database. Hopefully no one ever has this many issues, but when you click on it, oh, actually, that's not how it would happen. What I did here, sorry, if that was a different slide, I was going to. What happens in what I'm about to show you is a little bit of behind the scenes on what we built here, okay? So this right here is the search definition. And when this got clicked on, we're going to view the underlying query. So we clicked view and then no changes allowed. Just simply showing we had this query we pulled from two different views. And the reason we were pulling from two, we have the query where the conflict is, and then the why it's a conflict, right? So these data sets, it took us a little while to get the data to fully work here, and then we had to do this drilling URL. And a key thing when you're writing this drilling URL, it needs to be unique to every one of your rows. I guess I could pause this as I go through it when I have questions. So then down here, what we did, I had set up two drilling URLs. This was to allow us in our visualization to drill to the security pages. So keeps going here. You can see I had to go in here. I had to make a couple change or two on App Designer side to get some labels to work. Those were just, part of the learning process when you do this. Again, I was able to make something rather quickly this day, but took a little bit of time over the course of a few weeks to really get this to a final state. But you'll be able to get it in front of somebody, and especially when you're building something new, have that kind of interactive reporting site there. So you can see this was our full data set, and basically our dashboard will be built pulling all of this data and aggregating it, looking at it in different ways. All right. So once we close out of there, then we're back in the Search Designer. So on the next slide, in Search Designer, you here have these are all the required fields. The last modified, I mentioned that. You have this, so the search attributes, again, these are all the fields that are going to be indexed. It's hard to see on here, but they're all checked, right? We built a custom index, so we knew all the fields, they were all checked because we weren't selectively only taking a few fields. This was built specifically for our solution. One thing I will say is when you build a custom solution, you always want to think about the use case that you have today, but hopefully additional things you might want to report on with that same data. The more data that you can get into a custom search definition that you plan on reporting from, the more robust your reporting solution, your custom dashboard can become. All right. So now this is the dashboard that we actually built. And you can see there's a lot of information here, and it actually scrolls down. So once we go through this, you'll be able to see there are probably 10 or 12 different visualizations. I will let it run just so you can see a little bit of the interactivity here. Across the top, we have the three high level, what are the total conflicts, and then we have the conflicts with the permission list, and then the conflicts with the role name. And anytime you click on something on the dashboard, you can see it adds the filter up there, and then you take it off to remove it. One of the things I had to do here on the visualization, this is a little tip and trick, was it wasn't interactive without the bucket, but once I put the bucket in there, then it worked. Actually, I'm going to pause that. And this is probably a little bit more for people that are not brand new to this, but I try to make this for both. So what I did, pause. What I did here, I put a bucket here, but then I put a filter on the exact value that I wanted. So even though I had a bucket, it was only going to return one value. But by having that, it made it clickable and allowed you to drill in on it. So and that was really just from a dashboard perspective. So the interesting part, there was only one unique permission list here, and you can see that one is not drillable. I had no bucket there, but I did have the filter. So that one unique permission list, again, this was a demo. That was an issue with the all pages permission list. We had a breakdown by high, medium, and low for the different types. And again, all these things are customizable. So I had red at the top. If you had different values you wanted to show different ranges for, they could be different colors. Now down on this interactive pie chart here, which we're using a donut visual for, it actually has two layers, right? So you have the inner ring and the outer ring. And when you click that inner ring, you are seeing that applied the AP filter, but now I took it back off there. If you go into the visual here, you can again see how this was set up with the product 1 and product 2. Remember, with the way these, you have the product on the way our data is stored, we have two products in there. One that's showing the conflict, and then the second one that showed, the conflict between the two, I guess. And then at the bottom, just like all the Oracle delivered ones, we did a detail here. And then right here, this is where those drilling URLs came into play that I had mentioned, right? So and I didn't click on this here, I don't think in my demo, so I paused it a second. But this one would take you, if you need to update the permission list, this link would take you to update the role. And you set that up so that it passes all the parameters through, so you then go directly to that specific permission list or role. All right, so that is how we built, and I guess I'm showing you what we built for our segregation of duty product. And again, this is just one example. I mean, you can take any information that you want to report on, create a custom search definition, and then import that into OpenSearch to view it. Let me do one other thing here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so yeah, the last slide I had here was transforming the user experience with OpenSearch. And again, we highlight in this product, the use of the dashboard to fine tune the results, where you're getting your top conflicts as well as the security roles with conflicts. So while this product was built initially to highlight and just for the segregation duties, this analytics piece using insights has become a really critical and integral part to this overall solution. Just get one sip of water. All right, that's kind of the end of what I was going to show. I mean, we can have some questions here now. And then the other thing I can do, if I don't know if the environment was up and still, I don't think it is. No. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's the end of it. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end here. So feel free to put some questions in here. Oh, Harry asked a question. Are we able to combine with, and I don't know when he said this a little while ago. Oh, no, just now. Are we able to combine with external data? So you can combine with external data. One thing I often say when it comes to the analytics, the ability to do that is here. I don't see it used very often when you're using these analytics within PeopleSoft. And I'll say most organizations that are bringing external data in, they're doing that in some sort of data warehouse or other system and not necessarily directly in PeopleSoft, right? I view this as it's almost like what Oracle's doing with cloud or OTBI, right? Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence. I feel like that's what PeopleSoft Insights really is. It's transactional business intelligence. It allows you to do that reporting in the tool. But I have done the external data, at least as a prototype, to prove out that it worked. And what we did there, we actually had a data set out on it was AWS, and we were able to pull the data in from AWS and show it on a dashboard side by side with let me see if I actually have that. I probably have a screenshot of it, so give me 1 second. Any other questions while I'm looking that up? Where'd it go? Yeah, this right here was a we had information coming from PeopleSoft, as well as this perfect order KPI that we had stored in this external data set. And I was just showing here how to set this up, but we basically had to configure AWS PO data and then bringing it in together. So it took a little bit of configuration. I think a lot of it happened right in here, but you can see down here it joined to the purchase order search definition. So this was the delivered search definition, and we joined this external AWS. So we had to create our own search definition for the AWS, but we were able to join them together and keep that side by side. Any other questions from anyone? There's a lot of functionality here with the insights dashboards. Again, if you haven't rolled out the dashboards, I would highly recommend viewing the delivered dashboards. I'm actually going to share one other thing with you. Let me find this file real quick. So what I maintain myself is a list of all of the delivered dashboards, and I try to keep it as up to date as possible. So when new new PUMs come out, you get something opening up here. You just have to drag it over. Okay. So here you can see through PUM 49 on FSCM and PUM 47 on HCM. These are all of the dashboards that are delivered and available. And I put this in a spreadsheet because you're able to filter this very nicely. So if you only want to see what's available from benefits, you can click on this, and now you know you had to be at least on PUM 39 to get that. If you want to know what index pattern the data was coming from, you can do that as well. So I can share this spreadsheet with those of you if you're interested. Same thing on the FSCM side. And sometimes you might only have, contracts, GL, inventory grants, right? And so now you know that, each one of these are the PUMs that you needed to know. But this is also helpful when you want to roll this out because you know which index patterns you actually need to run in order to deploy and roll out these for people to test. Okay. Any further questions from anyone? All right. Well, thank you, and I appreciate your time. If anybody has any questions, wants to reach out, feel free to email me there. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.